Thank you for joining us today on Earthfile. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayola Kasim. 2024, the hottest year on record, saw a spate of unrelenting droughts, storms and floods that made it harder for small-scale and subsistence farmers worldwide. Such challenges resonate particularly with many here in Nigeria, where 70% of the rural population depends on agriculture for a living. As part of broader efforts towards food security, the government says it has improved its capacities in agricultural monitoring, disease identification and yield prediction. And there is also a progress in climate-resilient biotechnology solutions. So today on the program, we'll look at some of these efforts. Do stay with us. A new assessment found that a staggering 33 million people will face acute food insecurity in Nigeria in 2025, was the number of people facing emergency levels of need projected to almost double. Poor rural women and men depend on agriculture. About 70% of rural people are subsistence smallholder farmers who produce some 90% of Nigeria's food on unirrigated plots, wholly dependent on rainfall. Although in 2024, Nigeria's agricultural sector demonstrated modest growth, underscoring its pivotal role in the nation's economy. The sector's share of real GDP declined to 25.59% in the fourth quarter of 2024, down from 26.11% in the fourth quarter in 2023, highlighting the sector's waning influence amid a service-driven economy. But experts believe that the agri sector still has much higher potential than it is witnessing. Prolonged dry spells and heavy rains are exacerbating existing economic challenges. This is also an indirect driver of ongoing conflicts. These extreme weather events not only threaten the resilience of communities, but also worsen the already critical food security situation in the country. From the 1st to the 15th of October 2024 alone, Food and Agriculture Organization recorded that the floods affected over 9.2 million people and submerged 4.5 million hectares of land, including approximately 1.6 million hectares of farmland. Analysis indicate that due to the extent and persistence of the floods, the potential annual production losses for maize, sorghum and rice combined in the flooded areas could be about 1.1 million tons. This could feed 13 million people for a year. In financial terms, the potential cereal crop losses amount to about $1 billion in economic losses. But just before the floods was a dry spell that affected many states, especially in the north, leading to significant crop stress, wilting, and stunted growth, which indicate extensive agricultural stress across the region. Data from the past 4 decades reveals that the region frequently experiences severe dry spell. The current conditions are not isolated incidents, but part of a long-standing trend of environmental stress in the region, which is likely to continue affecting agricultural productivity and food security. Insects also pose additional challenges as farmers in the developing world have little or no resources to effectively manage them. In response to this alarming crisis, the government in 2024 approved the cultivation and commercial release of the transgenic, drought-tolerant and insect-protected maize varieties, otherwise known as Tela Maize. The Tela Maize project was started in 2019 in Nigeria with the aim of releasing maize varieties that are resistant to 2 destructive insect pests, fall armyworm and stem borers, as well as drought in maize.
This will give you an idea of what we're really saying. The protection against the insects, you can see, the completeness, no insect was able to, or no fall armyworm or stem borers have been able to infest this because of the protection that it already has.
stem borer reduces maize production in several countries in Africa, while fall armyworm can destroy up to 20 million metric tons of maize in Africa each year, enough to feed 100 million people.
So look at this now. The product of the local variety. Look at how scanty this one is. Destroyed by the stem borers and the fall armyworm. And you know, once the leaves of a crop have been destroyed, of course, the leaves are very, very important when it comes to photosynthesis. And it's through photosynthetic activity that you know, these grains are being formed. So the more leaves are eaten, you know, the less they harvest. You will end up with a very scanty crop like this. And with that, where will the farmer go home with?
The transgenic technology, including gene constructs, transformation and other recombinant DNA technologies, and other proprietary information and materials regarding the transgenes owned by Bayer Crop Science LP, formerly Monsanto Company, is licensed royalty-free to the partners for use in the project.
This is a local variety, so 20% usually we have what we call refuge in bag, you know, for the seed system. So when the seed companies, of course, they have to mix it up with non-Tela components. I think that's the stewardship plan for this, is to mix up the seeds. Put 20% in every seed bag that you buy for Tela. You have 20% in it that is non-Tela, and it's a refuge plant. It's meant to actually, you know, let's say the insect, to protect the Tela component, so that the Tela, you know, the insects will not have so much pressure on the Tela. You know, there will be pressure if there's nothing like this, and with time they can grow resistance and begin to eat the Tela. So it's like a safety valve, so the insects can feed on the non-Tela. Their attention will now go to the non-Tela, and the Tela will, you know, stay protected. So look at this, the difference between the Tela and the non-Tela in terms of size, and then in terms of the insect infestation. You can see the coloration here, all this coloration on these grains that are here. You know, the coloration here is caused by the stem borers and the fall armyworm. So look at it.
The new maize varieties released in Nigeria is said to have yielded advantage of up to 10 tons per hectare under good agronomic practices, with national average for similar hybrids at 6 tons per hectare. The varieties, according to the release, are suitable for rainforests, Guinea and Sudan savannas.
They were subjected to investigation, and based on our terrain, based on our location in the country, the low quantity of water in the north, far north, and the north central average, and the mangrove swamp and the tropical forest, these 4 varieties of maize, when you plant them, they are made specifically for those areas. And they are made specifically with the protection against insect attack. And they are made specifically with high yield, so that farmer can have benefit as a result of farming. We need to encourage our farmers. That is why we have gone into the laboratory. The scientists have worked day and night to make sure they produce something that will encourage farmers to go back to the farm and produce crop for business, which means farming now is going back to a business farming. You make profit, not that you put grain and then you harvest, and then either you lose or you recoup your money. But this one is pure business. We want to transform our farmers so that they can be like those in the US, those in the Argentina or in Brazil, where we go and buy maize and bring it to fill in the deficit. That is why we went into the laboratory and we bring these new varieties that has quality and that can produce more in terms of quantity. Quality against insect attack, quality against drought, and also and also high yielding. So this is the thing, and this is what this government stands for. The government wants everything that we do now to be modern. Modern in the sense that it can now yield a business. Business, farming will be a business. You, if you are not into the farming business, you will be enticed to go into the business because there is more profit. And that is the whole thing. We can feed ourselves and we can now export, and industries will now spring up as a result of this. So this is the essence of the researches. This is the essence of this finding.
The release of these crops caused some uproar, with many saying it is a flooding of our agriculture system with a product of a risky technology that promotes monoculture and does not necessarily lead to higher productivity than local varieties.
With best practice, you can get up to 10 tons per hectare. What on earth do you need? And the plant, they are saying that if you replant it, it is not going to reproduce because it's one chance. No, that is not true. What you need is that if you plant it, the yield is not going to be the same as the first planting, and it continues to deplete. And that is reality in everything. People are used to going to the market to buy grains and plant. And that is why you see everybody is running away from farming, because you didn't buy the quality seed. Now, if you buy maize, this Tela Maize, you plant, you want to continue planting it, nobody will say no, go. But somebody who go back to buy a fresh seed and plant will have high yield than you. So as you are planting, the yield is decreasing. But if you plant and then you buy, you plant, that is, you are making it a profitable farming. So this is the difference. Nobody says it is not going to grow. No, it will grow. No matter what you do, go to the market, you buy grains, you plant, yes, it will grow. So as you are planting, it will become grain. No more seed. That's the difference. If you want to plant seed, you go and buy. If you want to plant grain, you continue planting that. But the yield is the difference. This one will give you high yield, this one will give you low yield.
Experts say the acceleration of climate change has put agri-food systems in uncharted territory, with temperatures now higher than they were when humans began agricultural practices some 10,000 years ago. They say addressing this requires innovation and financing at the same scale as innovation in other sectors, such as energy. The critical linkage between climate finance and food security, recognizing them as foundational elements of sustainable development and economic resilience, was the focus of a roundtable recently hosted by Nigeria's Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology in collaboration with the Commonwealth Secretariat in London. The minister presented Nigeria's national strategy for integrating innovation and climate finance, outlining how policy alignment and investment frameworks can strengthen food security and climate resilience.
The Climate Smart Agriculture and Value Preservation Project is designed to transform the production and value chain of high-value crops, such as sesame and hibiscus. By integrating advanced farming practices with technologies such as biochar, we anticipate a 30 to 40% increase in crop yields and the sequestration of approximately 200,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide annually. In addition, the production of solar-powered drying facilities cold storage units, and processing centers will significantly reduce post-harvest losses by 50%, boost farmers' income by 40 to 60%, and open up new market opportunities, thereby strengthening Nigeria's agricultural value chain.
Showcasing Nigeria's progress in climate-resilient biotechnology solutions, including Tela Maize and climate-adaptive cotton as models for sustainable agriculture. The discussion highlighted biotechnology's role in achieving climate-smart agriculture, strengthening food security, and reducing agriculture's carbon footprint.
By aligning our national policies with global commitments, the Nigeria Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology is already driving green innovation through initiatives such as the Nigerian Green Economic Transition Project, which promotes sustainable land use by advancing renewable energy, reforestation, and agroforestry. The Methanol Fuel Production Technology Initiative, which is developing local capacity to produce low-emission alternative to fossil fuels. The Climate Smart Greenhouses Project that is pioneering controlled environment agriculture for resilience, year-round food production, and the National Technology Action Plan, a strategic framework that accelerates technology adoption in agriculture, industry, and energy. Beyond these large-scale infrastructure projects, we are committed to inclusive approaches that empower our indigenous and local communities. Initiatives like briquette energy for rural areas and bamboo value chain development have provided affordable energy and sustainable livelihoods to rural communities, while the National Waste to Wealth Program is transforming the way we manage soil and water resources by turning waste into opportunity and ensuring environmental sustainability.
And food insecurity. The Commonwealth, comprising 56 countries across all inhabited continents, represents a population of 2.7 billion people, with the majority from the global south and more than 60% under 30 years of age. This demographic composition presents both a responsibility and an opportunity to address global food security challenges and derive climate-resilient efforts that impact billions.
Today, we continue this important work by focusing on practical solutions which integrate climate finance and food security to build resilience across our nations. Nigeria's mosaic approach, which strategically integrates public, private, and international partnerships, serves as a compelling model for how we must respond to these challenges. Across the Commonwealth, we have an opportunity to embrace similarly holistic and scalable solutions, leveraging initiatives such as the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub to ensure that all member states, especially the most vulnerable, can access the resources needed to build climate-resilient economies.
In recent years, the Commonwealth has taken a strategic approach to addressing climate change and food security challenges, acknowledging the urgent need for coordinated action to combat rising food prices, unpredictable weather patterns, declining crop yields, and increasing water scarcity. The roundtable reflected the Commonwealth's continued commitment to unified climate action.
This is a moment of real urgency. Across the Commonwealth, food security and climate finance are not just policy challenges, they are existential imperatives. The ability of our people to access sufficient nutritious food is directly linked to our collective capacity to mobilize resources for climate adaptation and resilience. But climate finance is not keeping pace with climate change. Support for our vulnerable nations remains inadequate. And at the same time, asymmetric rules in developmental financing have made it increasingly difficult for governments alone to bridge the gap. According to IMF and World Bank research, the public sector contributes approximately 25% of global GDP, which in 2024 was estimated at $110 trillion US. This means that whilst governments play a crucial role in climate and food security financing, the majority, 75% of global economic activity, is driven by the private sector. This sends a clear message. Public sector funding alone cannot meet the scale of investment required to tackle climate change and ensure food security. If we are to bridge the financing gap, we must mobilize private capital, incentivize sustainable investments, and create financial mechanisms which attract large-scale participation from businesses, institutional investors, and philanthropic organizations. This roundtable builds on the Commonwealth Living Lands Charter, which was adopted by our heads of government in 2022 to promote sustainable land use, combat desertification, and support climate-resilient agriculture.
The Commonwealth Living Lands Charter, mandated by the Commonwealth heads of government in 2022, set a new precedent for collaborative action, urging member states to protect ecosystems and address biodiversity loss while tackling the impact of climate change. Complementing this, the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub has provided technical assistance and capacity building, helping member states secure international climate finance to support adaptation and mitigation efforts.
We must ensure that climate finance is accessible, equitable, and responsive to the needs of those most affected. We must also prioritize investments which build sustainable food systems, safeguarding livelihoods and economic stability for future generations. The Commonwealth has always been a community of action, bound together by shared values and a shared purpose. And this is the time to rise to the defining challenge of our times with the determination and collaboration which have long been the hallmarks of our great family of nations.
And at the end of the day, experts say to solve the problem of climate change and food and nutrition insecurity, there's a need for a concerted effort to provide innovations that produce more and higher quality food without putting an additional strain on natural resources, the environment, and human health, to improve nutrition security and boost incomes, especially for the 75% of the world's poor who live in rural areas and mainly rely on agriculture for their livelihoods. And with that, we end today's show. Thank you for watching our inbox. Earthfile at channelstv.com is available for all your comments and questions. From all of us here in Lagos, it's bye for now.